Souse us therefore in the powdering tub of thy mercy,
that we may be tripes fit for the heavenly table.
Welcome, Meatsmiths. You are listening to a Meatsmith harvest,
restoring husbandry to prosperity
by means of the traditions of our fathers.
This dialogue picks up where we left off in our last episode's conversation. You can find part 1 on our website, YouTube, or iTunes. If the content resonates with you, please consider supporting our team by going to patreon.com/Meatsmith and donating a small monthly pledge. This goes directly toward more free media headed your way. Thanks for staying tuned for part 2.
One of these health gurus who's sounding all these alarms again, in that cycle that happens every 10 years or whatever it is. But he had this phrase, I think it was the aggressive pursuit of comfort. Mm-hmm. We're aggressively comfortable. And that is like killing us.
Yeah.
Because we're made for strain. Mm-hmm. Our bodies, our muscles are made to be torn. Our bones are made for loads. And when you stop doing that and you become sedentary, you just start dying. Mm-hmm. And similarly, our immune system is made to fight things, to be exposed to things. And I've actually noticed in my 40s now a reawakening of the 2-year-old habit of licking stuff. I don't know, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's like a weird confession, but 2-year-olds do that. They're building their immune system, exposing themselves to everything they can put their fat little fingers on and shoving it in their mouth. Yeah. Younger than 2. This is your 8-month-old.
9-month-old.
Yeah, this is what they're doing. Literally everything. And if you were to remember all the things that your child puts in their mouth, you would either have a heart attack or you'd be like, wow, maybe that's what an immune system how it's built, what it's supposed to do. And so it's actually kind of fun. There's this whole panoply of tastes on a freshly killed animal. Yeah. And so I kind of like tasting them all. Unprepared, uncooked. And you know what? Most of it's bland. Has no flavor whatsoever. Okay. But just in case anyone is worried, I say this all the time, but not only have I had mainlined into my bloodstream most of the substances on every creature, whether it be urine, blood, turmeric, pus, everything. From every species, cow, beef, poultry, everything, poo, because you get little cuts on your hands and you keep working. And we're swapping blood and fluids nonstop, because you can't fix a cut on slaughter day. It's not happening. You just keep going. And I've never had a problem. I've never even really had parasites. And I can add licking to that now. I think I've licked almost tasted just little tastes of every internal surface. Yeah. And it is remarkable how inert they are. There's just no very pungent aromas, zero flavor. It needs to be subjected to culinary art. The primary example, this is such a stupid tangent, but the primary example of that, I feel like, is the milk from the stomach of a calf.
Ah, yes.
So calves only eat cheese. They don't, newborn calves.
They only drink milk.
They only drink milk, but they only metabolize cheese. So when they drink that milk, it goes straight into the rennet stomach, becomes cheese, and that is what they consume. That's what their body utilizes for nourishment. Is mama's milk turned into cheese in their gut, and it's in that little rennet stomach. And I've eaten the cheese from the rennet stomach, because if you open it, it's not full of milk. It's full of crumbly, looks like ricotta cheese, and it's totally bland. There's no salt in it at all, but there's lots of rennet, so it precipitates. The curd is very well formed. And it smells very pungent. It smells like a feta, but it's totally bland in flavor, almost no flavor. Anyway, I've gone the horizon. I've gone to the frontiers for all of the home harvesters. You're good.
Yeah,
it's all clean stuff.
This is what I use all the time This is Mommy Diagnostics.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a one-stop shop book. We bought it, I think, when we were first married. Like, you bought it for me almost like as a wedding gift or something.
Yeah.
Like, here, let's like take care of our family and stuff.
It was recommended to me too.
Okay.
By someone else that is big in the home birthing world. And
so this is at least 15 years old.
Yeah.
Yes, home birthing world.
She gives you lots of options, I think, like herbal treatments, more conventional, modern treatments.
She does. Copyright 2004.
Yeah. Lots of different approaches.
Yeah.
In that one.
I don't look to her for everything, but she's definitely something I look to when I am out of my league. Yeah. And I definitely don't want to go to like WebMD or something.
Yeah, don't
like
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when it comes to whooping cough, she's actually a little more conservative than I am, I think.
You mean conventional?
Conventional, that's what I mean. Sorry.
Yeah.
But we went to her to diagnose. We were like, what is this?
Yeah.
And she helped us figure out what we were dealing with. Because, so I'll get into that later. Well, one more thing. Restoring your digestive health.
Yeah.
This was sort of a diving board.
It's old news now, but
it is.
Yeah, so this guy founded Garden of Life. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, Jordan Rubin, 2003.
Yes,
yeah, this
Rubin's.
is all right when
so
we were getting married.
He gets into some. He
the primitive
tries.
Diet.
Yeah, primitive diet. He also tries to draw direct nutritional information from the Old Testament dietary laws, which I think is actually a philosophical error, but maybe a theological error. Yeah. But it's still good. It's still good stuff in that one.
Did he write the?
He says don't eat pork.
Right, but like the Bible diet. What's that called again? The Old Testament diet?
Yes, he did write that one. The Maker's Diet.
The Maker's Diet, yeah.
He did.
Yeah, and it was...
But his personal story is amazing. Like, you should look it up. Paul Rubin? Jordan Rubin. Mm-hmm. It's, I think he was even living in Lincoln Park in a van down by the Sound. Which is not possible. Well, no, maybe it's possible now because you can live anywhere.
Yeah.
But this was a while ago, like in the 80s, I think.
Did he have Crohn's disease?
He had Crohn's, and he, just the host of autoimmune diseases that our generation is plagued by. Mm-hmm. And he was at the end of his rope. Like he was emaciated.
Yeah. He
has photos of himself where it's like, wow, he's at the end. Yeah. Like he was not going to live, and he was young. I think he was in his 30s.
Yeah.
And his story is something like someone sent him literally a bag of compost.
Yeah, this is dirt.
Of dirt.
Yeah.
And they're like, eat this. He's like, whatever.
Yeah.
And he did.
Yeah.
And he got better.
Yeah.
Homeostatic soil organisms is his big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or was. I don't know. This is all 20 years ago.
Do you know what this sounds like? This sounds like the other YouTube guru now that's like, eats like rotted meat.
Yes.
And he was at the end of his rope with some horrible autoimmune thing. Body's wasting away. He actually is trying to end his life.
Yeah.
So he eats this thing of meat.
Rotted meat. After the doctors told him to get off meat because it might kill him.
Right.
He's like, all right, fine.
And so kind of in a moment of resentment.
Yeah, despair.
He eats this meat, and it actually is the thing that got him better.
Yeah, he's on the extreme end, but it's testament to what our bodies can do. It's incredible. So he literally eats a diet of putrefied meat.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what he eats. Raw, putrefied meat. I don't like that because it's untreated with art. Mm-hmm. And I think we need to be artful because that's what we are.
It's a little extreme, too.
But nonetheless, it brought him back.
Right.
And that's like he's prescribing it for this particular...
well, in a diet that has gone so off of one deep end where we're not eating anything of any fermentation whatsoever or any dirt whatsoever.
Totally sterilized.
Right.
Yeah.
We've gone so sterile that we need a little bit of this funk. But
a little bit of chitlins.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think his name is Irvin Vanderplanets.
Okay.
Vendor planets.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's just an example of, we try to find a moderation.
Well, it's just tradition. The thing is, you can actually use your taste buds as a good guide. So you have to learn to taste the difference between pathologically delicious food and actually delicious food.
Yeah.
Those are two different things. And it's easy. Pathologically delicious food is synthetic. It's not actual food. Okay. It's fabricated, it's manufactured, it's highly processed, shelf stable stuff. So that's not actually food.
And they take their chemistry from conventional cigarette companies.
Oh, the advertising, to make things addictive.
The addictive qualities of them.
Yeah.
When you mean pathologically delicious.
It's meant to addict you and perpetuate your appetite. Right. So it's not meant to nourish and satiate.
Right.
So that's all the, that's all of the highly refined foods.
Yeah.
Anything with white flour in it. And it's even in families that eat healthy, these things still sneak in. So it's not just the Doritos and the Diet Coke. It's bagels.
I know.
From the grocery store. It's I don't know, how else does it sneak in? There's items that sneak in.
Yeah, or
you buy all-purpose white flour.
If we're just gonna get burgers,
even if it's organic, look at the label. Is it enriched?
Yeah,
is it fortified?
Flours,
that stuff,
no good.
Highly processed. Yeah. You don't want that.
The buns that you get your
hamburger buns for your organic grass-fed beef.
Yeah.
It's the same stuff. It's synthetic. So that stuff is pathologically delicious. Ketchup. And once you learn to distinguish that, then you learn to embrace and it takes actually some palate formation, the virtue of tasting well. And that is food that is delicious. So it does take some retraining, and it is just training, which means just repetition. You just have to do it. And then you don't have to be necessarily this amazing food scientist. Look at traditional preparations, meaning old world preparations of food, of dinner. Copy them and adjust your taste to that. So that's why I like all these old cookbooks.
Mrs. Beaton's.
Yeah, they're the data of history. It's the one data point that is totally rejected in everything, and it's the one that is proven. It's the only one. A clinical double-blind trial on food, on nutrition, is ipso facto the fecal matter of a bovine. It is you cannot trust it. It is meaningless. It cannot be scientific. There are too many variables that they cannot account for in a double-blind study. And they have all of them rejected the only data point that is proven, which is what have people always done? How have we always eaten and cooked things?
Yeah.
And proof that works is that we're all here. So. I avoid a lot of having to go through the minutia of detailed health, nutritional knowledge, which I have done. I kind of did that when I worked at Whole Foods for a couple of years, mainly because out of curiosity, it was fun. But I kind of went down that road. None of us have time for that, and you don't have to do that. Follow the old recipes. That's why I love Jane Grigson and all these British women that resuscitated or wrote books and cataloged European pre-modern peasant cookery. They're not working with synthetic ingredients because they didn't exist. They're working with whole foods. Everything is a whole food.
Yeah.
Which is such a weird, redundant phrase. Whole food. It's a comestible. It's an edible item. It is food. The other stuff, it's not partial food. it's a fetish. It's like where you take one little element of the sugar cane or the sugar beet. Now it's not even sugar cane, and you totally isolate it from all the other parts of that plant through centrifuge and fermentation and distillation. You just get one little part. So you're guaranteed to only be eating in excess. Guaranteed. Before you've even decided to eat too much, if you know what I mean. It is an object of excess all by itself.
Yeah.
You're guaranteed an imbalance if you eat it. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
And so just go to the old cookery. And if you don't like it at first, keep going.
Yeah.
Keep doing it. You will.
So, you know how they say there's like this quote is probably attributed to half a dozen men out there, but I heard that Abraham Lincoln said this once. If I need to cut a tree down, give me 5 hours to sharpen the blade of my axe, and then I'll actually cut the tree down in 5 minutes or an hour or something.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's what we've done. It's like the soil is laid for treating something really Christ-sick by just making sure that your diet is good.
Yeah.
And that way, if you actually have to address something acutely, all that work has been done. And now you can address the problem.
Yeah.
So when something like a whooping cough comes down our path, the details of what we'll share don't really matter if all this other background is not there. So if you're looking at this podcast because the title was interesting or the thumbnail that we chose is curious, is interesting, but you don't actually put the work in to like change your diet, then I would not recommend some of these things that we'll mention, because the problem is still going to be there.
Yeah, and the way to state it negatively, I think, is every problem, health, illness or issue or imbalance, is a result of a nutritional deficiency.
Yes.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
If you follow the chain of events all the way back, it's some nutritional deficiency, because the totality of nutrients is available to us, and our bodies are designed to operate successfully with those nutrients being supplied. And so there's no failure of the body. There's no like, oh, your intestine is attacking itself. It's like, not really. There was some nutritional defect, and your body's trying to take care of it, but it can't. It's preventing it somehow. And so there's, every problem is ultimately a nutritional one. So if that nutritional base is defective, any nutritional supplementation post the illness or the negative event is going to be limited in its efficacy. Supplying the body with a lacking nutrient assumes that it can use it and has other nutrients that will enable it to use it to fight a thing, a particular virus or bacteria, whatever it might be. And so it's a total package, and that's the strenuous liberty.
Yeah. That's what I'm getting at.
And some of us start at a huge disadvantage just because we started late, or so we have these ingrained weaknesses, in our system. But I do think they can all be overcome. The potency in the human body is there. It's not that it's impossible to get well, it's that it just requires lots of discipline.
Yeah.
And that's
discipline and conviction too,
tricky.
Because things get hard, and so you have to rely on, why am I doing this? The belief, like when you're in those dark, sleep deprived moments, trusting that there's a reason why we approach health the way that we do.
Yeah, and I think that fortunately this is a thing that is elemental, so you can spend your resources on this. we get distracted by things that are not elemental, that are not essentials. So St. Thomas makes this really nice division of goods. There is exterior goods, and then there's bodily goods. And really, you only need the bodily goods. The sufficiency of bodily goods is what is necessary, and that's what you owe your children.
Right.
In addition to education, is a sufficiency of bodily goods to maintain the body. And that's literally clothing, shelter, food. That's what you need for the body. So that's primary. Those are primary needs. You can spend all your money on that, and that would not be wrong. That's actually ordered. That's what you should spend it on.
Right. Yeah.
All your resources and your time. Like, I don't know what proportion of our diet, of our income, what's that again? Actually goes to food. But in my mind, conceptually, it's like, well, all of it. That's what.
Yeah.
As long as we can keep a roof up there and some heat, everything else is food. That's an elemental good. So that's one we can't forego without grave injustice.
Right.
And a sufficiency, not an excess. We just need a sufficiency to maintain our bodies. And then the exterior goods, that's the category of luxuries, non-necessaries, entertainment, other things that we don't actually need. And a lot of our resource, a lot of our money goes to those. And a lot of our prioritization. So it's...
You mean our money does?
No, this generation.
The generation.
Yeah. No, I mean...
Some of it, we have teenagers now, so we have to recreate. We have to take them on bike rides, and like some of it's really important because it goes under the category of education or physical education, like just keeping them healthy. So we need to run kind of a gym or weightlifting or I guess, but even then that qualifies as bodily health too and psychological health. Yeah. So, but.
Yeah. And these, they're not mere, materialistic things. We're just talking about the elemental goods of nutrition. Yeah. That is a noble thing.
Yeah.
The poor's head in hand bear I, bedecked with bays and rosemary.
How many people do you know who are building their home culture around seasonal harvest and feasting? Or that are hunting as you are for self-sufficiency and back to the land values? Or that share your artist's passion for human-scale meatcraft? At farmsteadmeatsmith.com, we've created a community of hundreds of omnivores from around the world with these shared goals, and 2 major places for them to learn from and inspire one another. First, we have our semi-annual hands-on educational event, The Family Pig, here at our Heartland homestead in Oklahoma. Come meet Brandon, get your elbows greasy, and over the course of 3 days, kill, cut, cure, and cook 2 pigs completely. You'll rub those greasy elbows with other meatsmiths from around the country, sharing meals and conversations to inspire you for years to come. Secondly, for more remote learning, over at farmsteadmeatsmith.com, we host a purely digital membership program with an archive of film and textual resources 5 years deep now. And both our on-site classes and online program include access to our most unique and rewarding private community Facebook page, Meatsmith Table, which is the only international network by and for homesteaders harvesting animals on a domestic scale using traditional and regional methods. We've been told that our classes are life-changing and the membership program unparalleled in quality and quantity. To get a taste of our education, search farmsteadmeatsmith.com and our YouTube channel for our free films, conversations, and downloads. Explore how we and other meatsmiths across the globe may best come alongside you and support you in building your home around the harvest. Please head to farmsteadmeatsmith.com today.
And Joe actually, hey Joe, asked a good question that's kind of related to that. He is a Meatsmith member, and we live stream these to the Meatsmith members when we record a podcast so they can submit questions. But we can kind of go down this road a little bit too if you want. But he asked, it's a really good question. I feel like I've gotten this question several times in the past couple of months. But how immediately do you think the concern of Catholic homesteading is with a family? Should we actually flee the city or work towards the land by increments? The real life, unfortunately, does not pay the mortgage. And I think ultimately that's a great question. I don't have the answer. I have an answer, but that's a question about ends. Yeah. It's a question about ends. And I think that the key to ask about homesteading as a Christian family, as a Catholic family, what is the end of homesteading? What is its immediate purpose? It's the end of that operation. Because homesteading is an operation. It's a work. It is. We're going to produce as much food as we can. Why are you doing that? Why? And that you have to be able to answer that question well. And the simplest answer, I think, is actually the answer. It's to supply a sufficiency of bodily goods for your children. Now, so that's the end. That's the goal, and your family, to supply a sufficiency, not too much, not too little, of those essential bodily goods. Yeah. Meaning they're actually goods. They're not synthetic, contaminated, lying goods. They're not snakes. They are fish. They're actually goods. And that's frequently what homesteading can guarantee you. It's like, our milk is actually going to be milk. It's this great thing. It just is what it is. Very simple. Our pigs are actually going to produce pork, not adrenal fueled synthetic growth and other toxins. It's actually just going to be pork. So that's what homesteading can do. But that means homesteading is a means. So it's an instrument to that end, which means it's conceivable that you could do that in the city. It might be harder. Right. But it might be a little more expensive. It might be more expensive, but if you can meet that end, a sufficiency of bodily goods for your family in a more urban environment, then that's really good. That's awesome.
Yeah, you have a good situation.
Yes, that's ordered and that's proper. Now, of course, there's poetic knowledge in the formation of your children on the homestead and all of these other virtues that you can gain by the life of chores and caring for animals and learning how to grow food and the sacrifice and discipline that's involved in that. But even those are instruments to the formation of your children and yourself in virtue. And the thing is, you can take all your vice and all of your attachments straight into the idyllic, Edenic homestead and nurture them, no problem.
That's right.
So it's not going to be an automatic virtue maker. Like, oh, we're going to suddenly be more virtuous because we are surrounding ourselves by enabling circumstances to inspire, the virtue of tilling the land, of eating well, of temperance, of all these things, of doing chores, of discipline, of caring for things. That virtue is in the will. So not in the circumstances. Yeah. So even then, while I do think homesteading is more conducive to that, you can do it. You can do it. Yeah. You can do it in the city, wherever your situation is. Especially if you've had the sacraments, if you've been baptized, you have the grace you need to do the right thing. Yeah. Wherever you are. Now, none of that is to say, you shouldn't move to a homestead and start doing this, because I do think that would be really good. And if only because it is getting extremely difficult to supply a sufficiency of bodily goods in the city environment. Extraordinarily difficult. And I mean, we're getting to the point now with the contamination of our food system that it might be impossible. I don't think it is yet, but we're just getting closer and closer to that, where it's like, if you want the simple good, you got to grow it. Yeah. It's just not. So I think we're getting there.
Yeah.
But
you just have to gauge it case by case. How much are you making? You know, can you afford $16 a gallon for milk? Or
right. Yeah.
Or can you only afford $7? Or like, just, I mean, honestly, make a spreadsheet. Like, figure it out. Can my job in the city cover these needs? And also, what gauge, like you said, the family order, is it going to be too much of an upheaval to move everyone? Is dad going to be around? You know, is he more around keeping his city job? Maybe. Or is he going to be around more working on the farm, but he's stressed out because he's got to still go into the city for his job? I don't know. Like, just gauge your own situation and where you're at with your family. If they're young, if they're teenagers, if they're out of the house, like, there's all these different...
Yeah, and that's why it's so important just to have a very clear understanding of the duties of your state in life as a father or a mother, and what you owe your children in justice. You have to educate them, you have to form them in the virtues, you have to feed them and house them and clothe them and get them to heaven. So everything else is an instrument, is a means.
Yeah.
So the homestead is not an end.
Yeah,
it is an instrument.
That's right.
To those ends. It might be a really good one. Like, it might be a really good tool, particularly, and I do think that. I think it is.
Yeah, right.
But like he mentions the mortgage. Like, the rural life, unfortunately, does not pay the mortgage. It's like, yeah.
That's hard for us too.
Yeah, that is monthly. Like, how the heck are we going to do this? And it is the mortgage thing. And so that is... because there are these other obligations that can make this the well-ordered homestead disordered.
We're still moderns.
Yeah.
We're climbing out of our modern situation like we're shipwrecked orphans, you know, on the beaches. Like, get us out of this modern swamp, you know, and there's only so much we can do. We'd have no help from any institutions practically.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna, you know, just choose your battles too. And it's not a one size fits all, because we're not all like perfect Catholic peasants, you know. We don't have the Lord to help us. We're, you know, we're just like, we're literally peasants without the Lord. In fact, I mean Lord in the lower L case sense. Like, we don't have the feudalistic structures of having people above us on the food chain to give us a help once in a while. Like, we're having to do our...
We all get to be kings.
Yeah. We don't have education systems. We don't have medical systems. We don't have the food system. All these systems are not around. So
yeah, if you have scruples about those things. Yeah.
Some of us don't even have families helping us.
Yeah.
Like, we're literally just islands. So
yes.
Don't guilt yourself into going to the homestead at the same time.
Right.
Consider it and weigh your options, and maybe your children will be ready to go with your help.
And I would even say, like, the homestead will never pay the bills.
Yeah.
That's not what a homestead is on its own. So, and the thing about the bills is that they're excessive. So that's just what Joe mentioned, the mortgage. Like, you have to do an excessive amount of toil just to pay the bills. In view of homesteading. So, like, if you have to work too much in order to afford to homestead. And so what happens is, in order to pay the mortgage, you have no time to homestead. But you needed the land to be able to homestead at all. So now you're working extra away from the homestead to afford the homestead. It's pernicious. It's horrible. And that's just the system we're in right now. And so, like, you know, Joe says, I would love to walk away from my career and only be on our 10 acres. And it's like, yes, got to get rid of that mortgage first. Like, there's just no other way. And in the meantime, though, that career, if it's providing a roof, it's providing housing, an essential bodily good for your family, it is a good thing. And it's not the career you like. It's, all these things. But again, it's an instrument. It's a means. It's not an end. So I think it's very tricky in this day and age. And in fact, I've been reading this book about the medieval pig, and it's just a compendium of documentation about how pigs were raised from basically the 400 AD up through and into the 15th century. And it's encyclopedic. She just goes through all these old, sources. So much of this is documented about laws and management of pigs, how to feed them, herding them, everything. And I'm sorry, but society was profoundly ordered towards helping the family homestead.
Wow.
It is undiluted. Like, everything was geared towards enabling a family to provide itself with pork meat.
Wow.
Because it was assumed that it's essential, that it's an essential bodily good. And so whole town laws were geared towards this, towards keeping the village orderly, but also guaranteeing that everyone could had the rights, not in the modern sense, but the competency to raise their own pig. As long as they abided by these rules, because we needed to not destroy the village and destroy your neighbor's orchard. And so what this means is that back in the Middle Ages, there was a hierarchy of pricing. So this is so interesting to me. It kind of blows my mind. The pig was the peasant animal. So everyone had a pig because you don't need land. Everyone raised them in sties, and then they herded them as a group. Everyone's individual pig would join the herd, the sounder, and they would go into the forest from Michaelmas to Martinmas. Which is the acorn drop.
Okay.
And they measured woods, not in acres, not in hectares, but in how many pigs it could sustain. Literally, you can find it in Latin, like porcarius 10 or porcarius 40. How many pigs a particular block of forest could hold was the size designation of that block in the Lord's Demesne or in the Commons or whatever it was. And everyone had, you could have these rights of pannage, where the swineherd, who was frequently employed by the village or the lord, would come from Michaelmas to Martinmas, crack a whip, take your pigs out, and we have lots of misericords, tapestries, images of this, beat the oak trees with a stick, precipitating an acorn fall, and feed the pigs. And so that was the peasant animal. But guess which meat was the most expensive to purchase from the butcher? It was pork and chicken.
Oh, okay.
Way more expensive, which makes perfect sense. So pigs and chickens need grain. They need higher quality, more readily available nutrients because they're monogastric. They just have one gut. They can't eat bracken and pasture alone.
Right.
They need to be herded out. They need to be people are growing beets, they're growing peas, they're growing wheat to feed the pigs. They're getting whey, they're getting milk. They need extra feed that's not just covering the ground for most of the year like it does for a ruminant. So it was cheaper. More poor people, quote unquote, could raise pigs, but they couldn't buy pork meat.
Interesting.
So it was easier to raise pigs, more affordable than to buy pork. The meat that was affordable to buy was lamb and beef. So if you wanted to purchase it, its price was lower. So beef was priced lower than pork and chicken. And if you're just thinking about the solar economy, like the Dohertys say, like literally the inputs that it requires to make a pound of beef versus a pound of pork, it's the cow's just on grass.
Yeah.
That's way cheaper. So you could purchase beef at a lower price, but you needed more access to land to raise it.
Yeah.
And so that was that's why you need more access to like the commons, the moors.
Right.
So the poor people were not so much in the raising of beef because they didn't necessarily have all that access to land. It was the pig.
Yeah.
Why was I saying that? I was saying that because that is not the way it is today.
Yeah.
We've completely reversed it. Our food sources are not a reflection of actual costs of raising an animal. You could be in a situation, centuries ago where it's cheaper to raise an animal than it was to purchase its flesh. Now it's to raise just a pig that's just a pig. It's fed organically. It's $1,000 or more for that grain. And there's nothing special about the grain. It's just what it is. It's not ontologically promiscuous. It's not genetically modified and sprayed with toxins. It's just wheat and peas and some vitamins. But that's expensive. And pork is the cheapest. And chicken can be so cheap. And it's because it's all artificially subsidized, as we know. But all of that to say that the entire economy has turned upside down.
Yeah. For people that are actually endeavoring to either feed themselves well in the city or feed themselves well in the country, they can opt out. I guess this podcast is for those people. It's for those people who are trying to opt out of conventional medicine. And even if you're not on land, it's okay. It applies to you. But it's a big thumbs up. You can dodge some of the conventional therapies out there. If you get something really crisis like whooping cough.
Like pertussis, yeah.
We did it. We did. Like 7 of our kids got.
That's right. Not even all of it. That's the other thing. Yeah. It's amazing. Because so much of the conventional approach to health is fear-based. It's really helpful. It's fear-based. So the emphasis is on contagion. And, but again, so many of these things, their potency as being contagious is based not just upon the bacteria or the virus itself, but upon your own health. And so in the same house, not a big house with 11 people and most of them with whooping cough, Johnny never got it.
Yeah.
And I never got it.
You never got it.
And that's not because I was like self-isolating. There is no self-isolating, okay?
Do you want to tell them what happened?
Doesn't happen.
Yeah.
No self-isolating in a family of 11.
We kind of like tried to.
Never,
with
ever,
the baby.
ever.
We were like, okay, guys, try not to cough in Vincent's mouth.
That's a realistic ask, right?
Oh, no.
Nope. The 2-year-old will find a way. It's incredible.
Yes.
It's remarkable.
Our 2-year-old is particularly rambunctious.
Oh, we make them all that way. Yeah, but yes, I've had all of my children, almost, Wallace. He's asking us if we're done.
Oh, boy.
Oh, it's 5:17. We should probably be done soon.
We haven't even, we keep doing these caveats to the caveat, and like, people want to know how we did it.
Okay, well, we'll have to do that next time.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
We can.
We're just going to get launched right into it then.
Yeah, we got to launch into it. It's chitlins really set me off. But what was I going to say? I was going to say a thing. Oh, I had all of my children cough, like you say.
Yeah.
On my mucous mouth receptors, like in my face, in my mouth.
Up your nose.
I can't even tell you. the degree of intimacy in a small house with, 9 children, it's incalculable.
Yeah.
The proximity is remarkable. So, and I never got it. So there was no isolation whatsoever. And I only mention that to say we have a selection bias. We only remember when we get sick. We don't remember when we don't get sick after being exposed. Mm-hmm. And so our data, our memory bank is skewed. Mm-hmm. We're skewed towards fear. Mm-hmm. And it makes us act in silly ways and, in extreme cases, put masks on and stuff. But if you just develop the discipline of remembering when you have been exposed to, little Miss Snot Nose, and you're fine. Mm-hmm. That goes on the other side of the ledger. Mm-hmm. Complete exposure, closed room, no ventilation, coughing in the mouth. Mm-hmm. No problem. Mm-hmm. It's just, as a general thing, we can derive a lot of data from our own experience that is actionable and good to know and good to remember. Yeah. That can help moderate your fear. Because if you are in a state of fear about illness or anything, you cannot use your reason.
You mentioned some literature. I have to bring up this lady.
Yeah.
Just to fill out the knowledge base. Because she is recent. So we've cited some books from the 80s that have helped us. Mm-hmm. And then the book Mommy Diagnostics from 2002. Mm-hmm. This is circa...
This is new.
Yeah.
Also a book I have not read.
Okay. 2021. Okay. Her name is Pamela Acker. She has an MS behind her name. And she's extremely rational. Mm-hmm. She's actually... I don't want to say this. She's very dry.
Yeah.
She's very, very scientific.
Yeah, well, she was involved in developing
vaccines development.
Yeah.
And so she has seen the belly of the beast. Mm-hmm. And then she's kind of gotten out of it. She's not 100% like a whistleblower or anything.
Yeah.
She's just... so her book is called Vaccination, A Catholic Perspective. And she does write for certain presses that are less known. Mm-hmm. But she also has some podcasts out there that I could link to. Mm-hmm. If people are interested in hearing her story. And she goes through... her thing is you treat every vaccine on its own merit. Mm-hmm. And so she doesn't write all of them off. Mm-hmm. She writes... most of them off because she's seen them and she understands them. So she's very much about knowledge is sort of power in a way. Mm-hmm. Just understanding them. And the rabies vaccine, for instance, is actually a good one, is what she would say. But I've adopted a lot of... I guess I've gained confidence since coming across her and not being...
intimidated.
Yeah, as a homesteading mom and having my arsenal for home-based health using traditional knowledge.
Yeah.
I know good priests that have communicated with her and endorsed her knowledge base. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's another book to read up on if you like really dry knowledge, but you want to kind of wrap your mind around something. Yeah. It's not so esoteric that a layman can't understand. Mm-hmm. But we came across her in the last 5 years, I would say. Yeah. Which has not been a lot's happened in the world landscape with medicine. So she came across my path just prior to 2020. Mm-hmm. And anyway, so I would add that to the arsenal. But I guess we'll get to how we dealt with whooping cough.
Yeah.
I keep mentioning it because people want to hear about it.
Yeah, they do ask.
And we do want to have disclaimers out there, but...
this hasn't been all disclaimers. It's mainly just been rabbit trails.
Yeah, and also just food. That's our
yeah, it's easier to say the positive. I mean... Yeah. cook the best blood sausage ever. Just go ahead and do that. And eat really well. Make excellent bread. Fry it in cheesy butter. That's
bone broth,
my health plan.
Bone broth.
That's it.
Kefir. Yeah. We drink a quart of kefir almost every night. At least a pint, maybe a quart of kefir with like vitamin D, and like those are our health rituals. And
Feast.
Sourdough bread. I make 6 loaves of sourdough bread twice a week.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just a lot. Like, that's how we stay healthy. But then when a crisis does come, like, we're ready for it.
Yeah. With whole wheat. Yeah. It's feast and fast.
Yeah.
That's the health plan. Feast really well. Fast really well.
Yeah.
And it's hard because I want to use like the words like gourmand, gourmet, or I don't like the word foodie, but it's just human, because it's inhuman to eat food that has not been treated with art, and it's unhealthy. It's not becoming, and it's not becoming in a technical sense. Like, it does not establish you in your being. It doesn't accord with what and who you are and how your body functions to eat artless food, synthetic, fabricated, manufactured, isolated, deleterious food. And what delight is the experience of a conscious being that's aware of him or herself, acquiring a becoming good. That's what delight is. That's what actual pleasure is. And that is not an evil. That is a good. That is an end. That is a worthy end of a particular act. It's not the final end, but that is an end by which you can judge what means came before and say, did I do this well? If it tastes good, yes, you did. That is delight. So it is, food should be a becoming good, a good that establishes us in our being. That's what I mean by becoming. It is proportionate to how we are designed. We take it and we treat it with art, and it resonates with, you can taste it. I mean, it's your mouth is not designed the way it is by accident.
Yeah.
You don't have the subtlety to be able to discern certain flavors, to never do that, to just, blow them away with nuclear blasts of artificial Doritos powder. That's not becoming. That's not a becoming good.
You know what I'm having in mind, like a young mom or a young dad who is trying to live this kind of way where they source good ingredients, they spend time on their meals.
Oh yeah, like all your time. Yeah.
Okay, so have that picture, okay?
Yeah.
You're actually doing it. You're working to the bone. You're enjoying life. You're so miserable. You're so happy you don't know you're miserable, kind of thing. And you're doing it. And then you get some horrible disease out of nowhere. What do? You don't become fearful and say, I guess I gotta bite the bullet and like chuck all of our lifestyle that we've built our life around. It's like, no, that's actually when all of that work will serve you best, is when you need it most, actually, and you can trust it.
Yeah.
You don't have to go, I just got to chuck all this out the window for the moment because I have to actually deal with an emergency. It's like, no, that was made for that.
Yeah.
They're not at cross purposes.
Yeah, because there's I guess we're saying that there is an objectiveness.
Yeah.
To whole food. It's not debatable.
Yeah.
It's not debatable. Like, is this the way to eat? It's like, there's no debate. This is dogma.
Yeah.
This is settled. It's never bad, ever.
Well, and it's like, it's the same
It's
argument.
not going to result in, it's not the direct cause of disease.
Yeah.
It cannot be.
It's
Objectively,
the same
it's not.
argument that I get, I guess, with the home birthing thing, which is, and you're okay taking these risks. And it's like, no, actually, I've just flipped my script a little bit. It's, no, this is actually safer in a lot of ways. I'm dodging a lot of risks by doing it this way, by treating an illness that is actually really serious.
Pertussis, you mean?
Yeah. And I'm going to go ahead and trust that the natural way is better.
Yeah, and it's not blind trust. It's not absurdist. It's not existential.
No.
It is based on reality. That's what we're saying, is that this is actually based on the real. This is truth.
Yeah.
It's not and unfortunately, we have conflated the appearance of truth, the sound of authenticity and legitimacy, with scientific rhetoric. And that is an error. Still have to discern that scientific rhetoric, even if it's adorned with clinical this and milligrams of that.
And you have not very many people backing you either.
That's right. So you feel insecure.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to build some
so we did
here.
treat, we'll get into it, I guess, more deeply, but we did treat the pertussis just with vitamin C. And I don't mean just, like it was work, which we already said.
Especially getting it into a 3-month-old baby.
It was a ton of work, but it totally worked. And it was successful.
It didn't feel like
no compromise.
Yeah. Or like, I'm taking this risk with my children. Like, no. I'm actually serving them better.
Conferring upon them 40 years of immunity to pertussis.
Yeah. Well, and
rather
dodging
than
the
3.
risks of the vaccination for that disease. There's history there in the books that I showed you. Like, just look into it. That is risky too. It's not like these vaccines are all risk-free. They're not.
No.
I'm not going to get all conspiracy theory on people, but they have their own track record too.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
And doctors with MDs behind that kind of research too. So I'm just saying that because it can feel like, yeah, I'll do the homesteading thing, but I don't really believe in it. Like, no, it's actually the way to stay healthy. And for certain, I mean, take everything on a case-by-case basis. If there's something that we absolutely can't deal with at home, absolutely we'll go to the hospital. But we're going to do our darndest to find, like, experts from a variety of viewpoints. We just, the overarching mind map, the overarching paradigm is we're gonna figure our way through this.
Yeah.
We're not gonna delegate anything. Like, ultimately, as parents, we are the doctors of our children. And we might ask other people's opinions, but that's the brain shift that I think I needed to discover as a young mom. I was not trained in that.
Yeah.
So your mom helped me do that. Thanks be to God. It's just a shift. It's like the homeschooling. Like, oh, I don't have to ask experts. No, you know your own kid. Or even I can just go ahead and birth my child at home. Yeah, if you're healthy, if you have the right support, etc. So you're not running into this blind, like you say. But same thing with food. Same thing with really, I mean, not scary, but really aggressive diseases that might come your way.
Yeah.
Feeding yourself the way that you are helping people to feed themselves. It is the good life in a variety of ways. It protects you as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess we'll talk about pertussis next time.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's fine. We get into the details, I guess, if it's interesting to people.
Yeah. I think so.
Maybe we can spend less time on chitlins. That is more interesting, though. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I don't know if people really want to hear about teaspoons and...
Well, I'm excited to hear some cool, newfangled health guru come out and be like, all you CrossFit guys, you don't even know. You should be eating chitlins. It's the highest source of, I don't know, vitamin B12. And the skunkier it is, the more vitamin B you get.
They will, and they'll get a bunch of credit for it.
I don't know. I think that one's going to stay on the sidelines. Unfortunately. We'll do our best through the family pig.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for joining us, everyone. This was a hodgepodge episode, but hopefully it gave you a good insight and introduction into the way that we approach health in large, eagle's eye view. Mm-hmm. That's what I would say.
Yeah, it's all on you, Mom and Dad. It's all on you.
Again, the hard sell.
Yeah. It's good, though.
We should start calling our podcast
The Hard Sell.
The Hard Sell, yeah. Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about kidney cookery next time.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Meatsmiths, for listening to our take on all things meat making, householding, and culture keeping. We hope it's helped you in growing your home around the harvest.